Okay, didn't do a great job on that one. Hello, my friends. Bella Maldonado here, getting ready to do some more art that we are going to base on a tarot card reading. And this time we are using Tarot Illuminati by Erik C. Dunne. And if you saw my last video, which was actually a video response to the hashtag 7 decks for deadly sins, Tarot Illuminati was my gluttony deck. And if you want to find out why, go ahead and check out that video up in the info card. But yes, we are using Tarot Illuminati today, so let's get this box opened up here. It's got this really great guidebook, which is actually in color, so not bad at all. We love a good color guidebook. Let's get our cards out. Okay. We're going to give these a nice shuffle. See the nice gilded edging that matches the card backs really nicely. But again, if you want my full thoughts on this deck, you'll get to hear all about it in that other video. So the spread we're going to use is going to be the same one as always, which is going to be our 4-card spread. And it will tell us the theme of our art piece, the colors we're going to use, the medium, and our focal point. So I'm going to give these another riffle shuffle. I'm kind of feeling like they're not mixed in good enough. So let's just do that one more time. Okay, didn't do a great job on that one. But I think part of the reason why is because I don't really use this deck that much. So I haven't quite broken them in the way that I would like. But I'm sure after a few more times, they'll be a lot easier to shuffle. Okay, I think we are good here. So let's see. Our first card is going to be our theme. And we have the Tower card. So let me bring this a little closer so you can see. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, and there's actually a lot of stuff going on in every card of the Tarot Illuminati, but in this one, it doesn't seem very pleasant. You know, the Tarot card is all about big disruptions in our lives, and most of the time people are kind of scared when they see the Tower because, you know, it can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your point of view. But usually, like I said, big disruptions, things turn totally upside down, things that are unexpected, things that may seem like a huge disaster at the beginning, but could very well be a good thing in the end. So we'll put this one down and we'll just keep thinking about the idea of huge disruptions as part of our theme for our art piece. Our next card is going to be the color. All right, when I first flipped this over, the first thing that caught my eye was the red. And I don't know if it's because that's my favorite color or maybe it's just the brightest out of all the other colors here, but we will be using red in our art. All right, the next card is going to be our medium. And here we have the 9 of Pentacles. So let's take a look at what we have on this card and how we can use it as our medium. So her clothing has a lot of drapery in it. We have some gold coins in here along the path. She seems very comfortable where she is. The 9 of Pentacles is certainly associated with a certain comfort level in terms of your wealth, where you are financially, because we are talking about Pentacles, which is about things of the material world, like money. She seems very at peace and doesn't have a whole lot of worries going on. So how can we associate a particular medium with what we see in the card? It could be something that I'm comfortable using. So I think I've been having a lot of fun with alcohol markers for sure. Paints I haven't been working with a whole lot, so that's definitely out of my comfort zone. Paints and inks I'm gonna stay away from. She's in her comfort zone, so maybe we will stick with pencils and alcohol markers. All right, our next card is going to be our focal point. What do we have here? We have 3 of Pentacles. So in looking at this card, we have 3 people, we have a long scroll, we have some coins up here, we have some interesting headgear. What else do we see in this card that could potentially be the focal point of our art? Now let's look at our theme again, and maybe our theme can help us pick out one of the many things that we can use. So we're talking about a major disruption. We have 3 people that are collaborating and working together. So there could be a big disruption in their workflow. Now, one thing that I can't help but focus on is her hair. That's a really cool design there. And it's just a very different style. So I feel like I want to focus on her hair. I want her hair somehow to be the focal point of this art piece. So how can we combine that with something that is disruptive and unexpected? You know, when I think of hair that is unexpected, I automatically think of a Medusa type character. So I don't know, maybe we should attempt to draw Medusa with her snakes in her hair, something that's very unexpected. I don't think the hair is going to attack as much as looking into her eyes, but still, I think that works with the theme. I'm looking at the hair. That's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. So I think that needs to be the focal point. We're going to have either Medusa or a Medusa-like character who has hair that can cause what seems like disruptive damage. So doing the hair, doing the Medusa, there's going to be some red in there somewhere. And we're going to use the art supplies that I am most comfortable with, because our 9 of Pentacles here is very comfortable in her garden, enjoying her wealth, and just, she's not going to do something out of the ordinary. She's just going to enjoy life. And if I want to enjoy making this art piece, I'm going to use materials that I am comfortable using. All right, let's see what we create. So when I went on Pinterest looking for references, I came across this beautiful watercolor of Medusa, and it's actually from an artist who has an Etsy shop. So I'm going to put a link to their Etsy shop in the description. You should definitely check this out. I believe the artist's name is Carla Weisgala, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and she just has a whole bunch of beautiful watercolor art. You definitely need to see this. So I took their painting of Medusa as inspiration, and it definitely didn't come out as beautiful as that one, but it came out okay. So I already finished the face at this point, and now I'm working on the hair. And for me, I think the hardest thing was the hair, the snaky hair, simply because it kind of reminded me of when I used to write in bubble letters. And most of the letters were fine, but for the life of me, I always had such difficulty doing the letter S in bubble letters. There was just something about making the curves run parallel to each other that I simply couldn't do. And drawing these snakes I was having that same problem. And you know, not only did she have snakes in her hair, but they were all entwined with one another and just making them look like, you know, there was one on top of the other and one going through another. It was just really tricky for me. But I tried it. I tried it because it looked like such a fun drawing to do. So I just kept pushing at it. So since the idea of Medusa came to mind for this drawing, I figured I would do a little more research on her story because I, I think I needed a little bit more than from what I learned watching Clash of the Titans. So I did my research and found out that there are actually different versions of her story. And there's one that comes from the ancient Greeks that says she was always a monster. She was a gorgon, and she had two sisters who were immortal, and she was mortal for some reason. And yeah, so that story says she was always a monster. But then, you know, fast forward a little bit later, and the Roman poet Ovid wrote Metamorphosis, and in that poem, there's a version of Medusa that has a little bit more of a backstory, and actually her origin is completely different from what we know from the Greeks. And it says that she was actually born a human being, and she was quite lovely. Everyone thought she was very beautiful, and she decided that she was going to devote her life to being a priestess in Athena's temple. And then Poseidon got a hold of her, and you know, he wanted Medusa for himself, but as a priestess, she wanted to have nothing to do with him. So he ends up raping her, and then Athena, disgusted by the whole thing and decides she's going to punish Medusa for desecrating her temple, and turns her into a gorgon and puts snakes in her hair and gives her a body of a serpent and all of that stuff. So it's, you know, pretty interesting to see these two sides of the story, and I think the Roman version became a little more popular because I think more people understood the language more than the ancient Greek language, and it just became the more popular story. And it's kind of a sad one, you know, like the idea of, you know, being this victim and then being punished on top of that. And she was sent off to some lonely island, nobody else lived there, and anytime anybody set eyes on her, they would turn to stone. And it's just a very sad story. You know, this god comes down and rapes her, and she gets punished for it. But anyway, you know, sign of the times, which sadly hasn't changed much. But anyway, I digress. So I kept at it with this drawing, wanted to, you know, fight through this hair because it was quite a challenge for me. But, you know, I just wanted to keep pushing through it because eventually I'm going to want to start drawing things that are a little more complicated. And if I can't get through the simple stuff, I can't get to the complicated stuff. So at this point, I'm laying down the line art, and I was kind of hoping that I wasn't rushing through it too much, but I wanted to get to the coloring part so badly because it looked like it was going to be a lot of fun. Um, and yeah, so I just kind of went through this part really quickly, and I was I was afraid that maybe some of the details might have been lost, but while I was doing it, I thought, well, you know, I can always put in the details later. I could, you know, once I'm coloring, I can work on some shading to give it some more depth, and hopefully the line art wouldn't be too much of an issue if I really rush through it. So the line art is complete, and now it's time for the coloring. So I use the same coloring, well, I try to use the same coloring as the reference because I still need the reference for shading and the different colors that the shading need to be because I'm still a baby artist. And figuring all that stuff out on my own is still not something that I can do. So yes, I'm just looking at the colors that are in the reference and matching it up with the colors that I own, and just trying to make it all match up as best as I can. And eventually I will figure this out. I will understand how shading works, but for now we are using the reference and just adding some blush. The blush on the reference was very exaggerated, and you know, for some reason when I did it, it didn't quite come out the way I wanted it to. But you know, it's fine. It's fine. And now I'm just coloring in the snakes and just trying to give them that base color of light green, and then my hope is to eventually shade them various different colored greens, dark greens, light greens, medium greens, just to keep it a little interesting. And I also am going to reserve some salmon pink for the underbelly. Is that what you call it? I don't know, underneath the snake. So it's got a little bit of a pinkish hue underneath the snake, and on top of the snake there's more green. And there I am applying that salmon pink from my Ohuhu marker collection for the belly. And I'm also trying to use the marker to add details to that underbelly. I don't know, is that the right word, underbelly? I don't know. But I'm trying to use the marker for details instead of relying so much on the Micron pen. And you know, I try to lighten them up a bit and blend them in so it's not so obvious. Right now I'm trying to work on the snake skin. You know, it's not super realistic, but that's okay. You know, still going for that cartoony look. And you know, they look a little bit like Argyle socks, but that's okay. You know, as I say with almost every video, it's a learning process. And you'll see that I've already whipped out my color pencils because I find that color pencils, they work pretty well with alcohol markers in terms of blending things, and especially if you just want to smooth some things out, if there's some edges that are a little sharp and you're not able to blend them super well with the markers, doing that with the pencils works really nicely. Now, I haven't quite mastered that technique either, but I know it's possible, which is why I figured I'm going to just work with my pencils and the markers. As the card said, use the things that are in your comfort zone. So again, even though I haven't mastered it, I think I feel more comfortable with pencils and markers than any other kind of medium. Paints, that just will turn into a mess. Inks, even more so. So, you know, we're working with the markers and the pencils. And now I'm just taking my pencil to smooth out those lines that I drew with the marker on the belly of the snakes. And I think that's helping it. I think it's helping it look less harsh. And once again, still using the pencils to add some more details, some more scales to the skin, some more shading, and just trying to blend all of that stuff out. And at this point, I've finished up all the details, put in the scales on the skin, added some details to the inside of the mouths of the snakes, and now I'm using my black Pitt pen to color in their tongues. And I'm not really sure why I chose the Pitt pen. I feel like I would have had a little more precision with the Micron pen, but that's what I chose. I wanted to try something different to see how it works. So, you know, it turned out fine. And at this point, I'm going to start putting in some details in the eyes. And I feel like that's the kind of the best part of doing art if you're drawing a character. Because once you put in the details in the eyes, that's when it really comes to life and it kind of gets out of that ugly phase. So I'm going to be adding, I already added the eyeliner. I'll be adding some eyelashes and then putting some more shading to the eyeshadow. And I think I put just a little trace of a pupil, but it's very subtle. Again, she's supposed to be this monster that turns you into stone when you look at her, so something's up with her eyes. So I have that little curve in there that is supposed to be, I guess, a placeholder for a pupil, I guess. And now I'm adding some scales to her skin, which was on the reference image, and I thought that was a really nice touch, just adding those little bits to her forehead and also to the side of her neck. And then toward the end, I think I wanted something for the background, so I just picked a golden color and decided to fill that completely with the background. And it wasn't until I was done with this drawing that I realized I didn't use my splash of red. That was part of the reading, and I totally blanked that part out. And it's not until later where I decide I'm going to color in the snake eyes red, and that'll be my splash of red. And I'll put a little picture at the end of it so you can see the final product, because I can't believe I totally spazzed out on that and just missed the red. And here is the almost final product, because the snake eyes are not red just yet, but I'm going to put a little picture here so you can see it in its final phase. And if you had fun with the video, hit the like button, and I look forward to doing another reading. If you have suggestions on other kinds of readings that I can do to create art, pop them in the comments. I'd love to try something new. All right, until the next time, bye!